Before I start a day out in the world of illusion, I remember who I am instead of more confusion. Unless I want to spin more in my wheels, I can come to no other conclusion. I don't worry about the weather as I go on out the door. Nature's always changing, sometimes less, sometimes more. Wet or dry, I'm still the same, and that's how I'm gonna play the game. So I breathe in love, I breathe out compassion, I speak only truth, I live by intention. I think what I wanna think, and that's what I call freedom. Take it away, y'all. Ain't no politicians gonna tell me they can give me freedom. Red, white, blue, green, yellow, and pink. I haven't begun to tell you what I think. Among the many things we separate each other, when we're all really sisters and brothers. So I breathe in love, I breathe out compassion, I speak only truth, I live by intention. I think what I want to think, and that's what I call freedom. I breathe in love, love is love is love. I breathe out compassion, more compassion. I speak only truth, yes, truth. I live by intention every day. I think what I want to think, and that's what I call freedom.
And what an appropriate message for us today. I breathe in love and I breathe out compassion. I am using that as my mantra these days because I'm very stirred. I'm very, I think stirred is my word. I'm stirred about what's going on in the world today. My name is Reverend Abigail Schairer, by the way, for those of you who haven't met me before. And I want you to know that this week has been so challenging for me, but not just me, so many people in our country, because I imagine, like you out there, maybe you saw the video of George Floyd, who experienced, I would say, an unjust death, where he was unarmed, he was handcuffed, he was subdued at the hands of the Minneapolis Police Department. And it left me stunned and outraged, and it left many people in our nation and our world stunned and outraged. And so what I know is that this stun and outrage is part of a collective grief that the world has experienced. It's already compounded upon the grief that we're experiencing because of the pandemic, and to add grief upon grief, there's anger, there's sadness. And I think the grief really stems from not only just the loss, but the loss of human life and the loss of human dignity. It's the combination of both of those that really strikes a chord in me. And yeah, at the base root of it, regardless of what the appearances are, I recognize that there is a spark of divinity in and through and around and all of creation. And that reminder brings me back to my source, that this reality, I can have an impact in changing, and that I can step into standing what I was created to be and express here on this planet. And that is to be a stand for love. And so I want to read to you, there's a statement for those of you who are curious about what Centers for Spiritual Living is saying about this. We're a part of Centers for Spiritual Living. So Centers for Spiritual Living is a global organization, and Center for Spiritual Living Seattle is one of the centers as part of this global organization. And this statement came out. It's called Racism in the United States. Centers for Spiritual Living calls for it to end. We are grieving the lives that ought not to have been lost. George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery are the most recent list in a list of countless unarmed African American and Black people who have been murdered for the color of their skin over the past 400 years in the United States. Too many generations have suffered, and it has never been, and it is not now, acceptable. We denounce racism in all its forms, the starkness of the unapologetic, intentional racism, the racism in the silence of the face of injustice, the systematic racism inherent in our education, justice, and income systems, and the opportunity inequality, and any other racism that lies hidden in our individual hearts and minds. And I'm going to stop at this point from about this statement, just to kind of do a caveat. What I know is that part of my spiritual path is to speak about what is. This is the experience that our world is having. And there has to be some point where I put a stake in the ground and I say enough is enough. And for people who've been in an abusive relationship before and now they're in a very positive relationship, something had to shift inside of them to say, I am done with this. I am done. And there's a point when our individual souls and now I'm saying our world, our collective consciousness together is saying, I am done. And after you put that stake in the ground, we put that stake in the ground, there has to be something that we're inviting into our experience, our expression, that we wish to experience and express instead of what was. And so now I'm going to go on to the rest of this statement. And this is where we go into the vision, right? The vision. We envision a world where personal responsibility joins with social conscience in every area of the political, corporate, academic, and social sectors. We value a community-wide climate of safety that arises from compassion, justice, mutual respect, and kindness. Therefore, we join our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, who, echoing the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., said, "You and I should form the habit of taking definite time each day to contemplate and affirm peace with justice. For there is no peace without justice. But faith without works is dead. We should not only pray, we should act, each contributing the best they have to the common purpose, each willing to make any sacrifice necessary, for there can be no individual self-preservation without the preservation of all." It goes on to say, "We call upon ourselves and the faith communities in the United States to take action that shows that we have heard the cry of suffering, and we own our responsibility for it. Whether that action is prayer, donations to organizations that promote racial justice, rigorous self-education, or active engagement, let not this moment in history pass unattended. May the actions we take be steeped in peace and respect for the sacredness of all of life, knowing that whatever we do individually and collectively must be divinely directed from a higher consciousness. When we apply our spiritual principles through rigorous practices and compassionate action, the desired results cannot fail to demonstrate. That is signed by Centers for Spiritual Living, Spiritually Motivated Social Engagement Committee, which is led by our all of Centers for Spiritual Living spiritual director, Reverend Edward Fulyoun. So my personal job as a minister, I'm here to educate you on spiritual truth. That's my job. And what I know right now is that humanity is awakening to its spiritual magnificence. I believe we are creating a new possibility, a new idea of this world. I believe that we are shifting consciousness until racism is a non-issue. I expect good to come from what's going on right now. And at the same time, I also feel a profound sense of sadness and anger at the continued pattern of injustice. But it's not just racism. There's a lot of injustice going on. There's racism, there's sexism, there's ageism, there's heterosexism, there's cisgenderism, there's classism, there's a lot of other isms. And you know, those isms rise from the idea of duality. They're manifestations of duality, a separation consciousness, where people doing these acts do not know their inherent oneness with the God of all of life, of all creation. And it is incumbent at times when I see injustice to also remember that the perpetrators and the victims are all part of the body of God. It really doesn't do me any good to hate those people that are hating, to hate those people that are hating me. As a matter of fact, it's the exact opposite of what I'm looking for in the world. If I desire peace and harmony, then I need to release my own hatred because I am just playing into and perpetrating a system of separation. I need to step into the experience of love and compassion and be a torchbearer for peace. And I really know that if I want to do something, I have to do it first based on spiritual truth. I'm reading this book right now. It's our book of the month. It's called The Conscious Activist. It says, Where Activism Meets Mysticism by James O'Day. And while this book was selected last year for this year's month, of course, God knows, it's incredibly appropriate. And in the book, he says that spirituality cannot exist in a vacuum, ignoring social conditions or the plight of humanity. And activism cannot hope to transform social order in the absence of mature spiritual development. As Albert Einstein said, we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. So I have a 3-step action plan for you. Step 1 is to connect with your divine source. In the book, he says, the mystic path requires one to move from reliance on external guidance to learning to fathom the nature of internal guidance. So in order for me to get my internal guidance from the infinite great creator I know as God, as source, I need to step into my spiritual practice in a bigger and greater way. And the 2 practices that I use to do this are prayer and meditation. And what I know is when I pray and when I meditate, I reconnect myself with the oneness of all life. I stand in the source of empowerment and connection to all of humanity, and then I move from there into my action. It's a different action when I'm off kilter, all off balance, I'm disconnected, and I try and move into action. Those actions I might take from feeling disconnected and disempowered and not a part of all that is, a part of this divine, glorious expression of God, then I may do things that I step into harming somebody else. But when I step into the place of being connected with the all that is, when I step into that reconnecting with my divine source, I take actions that are in the support of the highest and best good for all involved, and I act from a source of love. And I recognize again that all of those isms that I said, they are manifestations of duality, a separation consciousness. And when my heart is broken, sometimes I forget who I am. And I can also behave in that separation consciousness. And so this is really a call for love. Each thing in the world is a call to be love or the call for love, for us to love each other at a deeper level. In the book, he says it requires a huge visionary shift to move beyond polarized thinking, beyond the version of an us versus them world. The pairing of polarities seems never-ending for the activist. Right versus wrong, selfish versus altruistic, good versus evil, liberation versus oppression. And while these are necessary and valuable truths and part of establishing a moral map, they can be polarities that can be self-reinforcing and deeply conditioning. So when our own consciousness matures, we realize that evolving morality is about experiencing a shared imperative for our collective liberation from that idea of separation. We have a collective experience of connecting to each other. And that collective liberation looks different for each and every person. But it's also part of our shared humanity, of dignity and love and respect for each other. So the second action I invite you to do is ask yourself, what is mine to do? And I have a story that the story is over 20,000 years old, and it's from the Bushmen from the Kalahari Desert in southern Africa. I got it out of this book, and he got it because he heard it at Gene Houston's mystery school. And the Bushmen are one of the eldest human beings on the planet that we know of. And this myth goes back so far in our time-space continuum. And yet I'm surprised and shocked and amazed and illuminated by the fact that it's so relevant right now. It's so appropriate for today. And the Bushmen stand outside the desert in their wicker huts, and they look to the heavens. They laugh, and they tell stories, and they dance, and they sing songs about their divine ancestor, the praying mantis known as Tuk-Tuk. Now, the mantis has the expression of both divine and human qualities, and mantis is not known as the ultimate great creator. It's a mystical expression of the divine in its own ancestry form to humanity. And in this story, this story, which is a mythic representation about the cycles of destruction and rebirth, Mantis calls for counsel of the animals. And Mantis says, "Friends, it is the time of the all-devourer. Everything is being destroyed. You can see the plants and the trees being eaten up. You can see the poison in the air and the rivers being swallowed. A great noise is covering the earth. Destruction is upon us. Everything spins faster as it enters the world of the all-devourer. Call all the beings We are to dine and have a supper together, and I will be here loving you all through this process. And then we must find a new creation. Well, Porcupine hears Mantis's call, and Porcupine, she's like, no, I cannot obey your call. I'm not going to go and have a dinner with you and just lay in waiting for the all-devourer to come and destroy all that is. I'm not going to have that. She says, Mantis, what about the children? What about the children? And so she goes ahead and she takes her 2 little children and she digs a deep hole and she covers the hole with her body and her quills are up in protection. And Mantis has this meal with everybody else. And the all-devourer comes upon the assembly. And carnage begins. I mean, everything is destroyed. The all-devourer eats it. Blood is everywhere. It is murderous. It is brutal. It is greedy. It is terrible. And Porcupine is in deep sorrow. What she has seen is unbearable. She burns with a desperate rage at the futility of it all. And the all-devourer has overconsumed, and it is dark everywhere. And Porcupine sees a moment that has come. Something shifts inside of her, and she knows now that she was born for such a time as this. And so, while the all-devourer is momentarily sated because it falls asleep because it has overconsumed everything, she realizes it is now time to act. And so she rouses her little children. She says, up, little children, come here. She says, it is you. It is your time now. She says, dear child of the left hand, your nature is compassion. Go and use your nature. And child of the right hand, your nature is will. Go and use your will. Go, children, go into the death, go into the destruction, go into the belly of the all-devourer, into the poison of all that is, and stay true to who you are. Stay true to your will, to your compassion, and bring us into a new moment and a new day. And so the little children go into the stench, and they dig into the belly of the all-devourer. And at this point in time, everything has been destroyed. Everything is gone. It is such a terrible carnage, and there is stench, and it's terrible. And as they rip open the belly of the all-devourer with the combined energy of will and compassion, something happens. A little light births forth, and another little golden thread of light births forth. And all of a sudden, more and more threads of light burst forth from the belly of the all-devourer, the belly of the darkness. And then the sun comes out in all its glory. The whole belly opens up, and Mantis is standing there in the belly of the all-devourer. And he is exposed with the being and the light of all of the braids of light and love. Golden threads emanating from his body. And he stands there and lights his words like those of a song, and he says, and so it is that from inside the belly and outside the belly of that thing that has come to destroy us all, we now claim that story is complete. We take all with us into a new creation. And with that, Mantis turns around and invites everybody out of the belly of the one that had devoured them. Porcupine and the children dance to a new music that has never been heard before. They celebrate in movement, in the rebirth of a new creation, and the upliftment and joy of a new experience of this world. This is our story. You see, Mantis is clearly a mystical being, and Porcupine is a resolute activist. And yet both play their roles. And because they both play their roles, that the combination of who they are leads to a breakthrough outcome. And the all-devourer is an out-of-control machine that devours natural resources and the planet and the people, and it is greedy, and it is jealous, and it is angry and rageful and hateful at everything that is. It also is filled with brutal ignorance. And yet, the all-devourer is the progenitor, the reasoning behind the next evolutionary cycle. It is the thing that calls forth the next highest evolution and expression. Without it, it would not have been brought forth. Mantis, the mystic, has a great knowing of how the entire drama functions. And he becomes the light of the bodhisattva, the one that joins with the others in their suffering and loves them through it. And Porcupine is a child of the all-devourer. And she knows that she must bring down the system that created her. This is a worldview that does not fall into a good versus bad polarity. It does contain good and bad, though. But the perspective is that everything plays a role in the emergence of the next experience of expression. And the perspective asks you to know your part in the story and to play your part boldly and with passion. And we know who the all-devourer is. And while it's easy to say the all-devourer is out there, there's a part of the all-devourer within each and every one of us. And I ask myself, have I lived in a world of ignorance? Or do I play in the system of separation? Have I wanted to destroy or wish to harm somebody else? Do I live in a state of overdoing, overeating, overdrinking, overconsuming, without understanding how the system of wholeness affects everybody? And when Porcupine says no, she's not being negative. She's not a negative porcupine. She's affirming a stance must be taken in order to propel the action to the next level. And she has the wisdom that her children also play a role. Her children, that she passes the mantle of the role of responsibility onto, she realizes that they are in an evolutionary time of integration, that they can move beyond polarization. They can accept the commitment to get into the filth, into the corruption, and into the stench with absolute pure intention. They are not afraid to get their hands dirty. And they manifest a resilient commitment to be of service to the whole. And the most beautiful part of this story is that it's from both the inside and the outside that the change must be brought about. The inside, the outside, the left and the right, the immanent and the transcendent. Our inner thoughts and prayers and intentions and our outer actions must be in harmony. And what's really beautiful is Mantis. Mantis knows a mystical secret. Mantis knows that if you eat me and all I am is pure love, I will be irreducible in your belly. Whoever swallows the seed of love will only one day become love. See, for such a time as this, we all need to be a part of the healing of the perpetrators and the healing of the victims, and getting down to the root of human wholeness, of being a part of this one system known as the infinite great creator God. And when I remember that, it's as if I am taking all the different parts of myself, remembering, the story of Isis and Osiris, who he got cut up into different pieces, and Isis put all his pieces back together. It's like parts of ourself are coming back together. We're remembering who we are, that we're all part of the body of God. So ask yourself, what is mine to do? There's actually a Facebook page called What Is Mine to Do? I invite you to join that Facebook page. It is put together by Tracy Brown, who's a practitioner out of Dallas, Texas, and she's also the former Leadership Council Chair of Centers for Spiritual Living. And she invites people into the conversation of just asking the question, what is mine to do? So your third step is to imagine a new vision and commit to it. I'm claiming now a non-polarizing vision. I'm interested in getting to a vision that's at the heart of a conscious activism where my consciousness and my love and my awareness meets my imagination of possibility, and where I know that real change is possible. I step away from the conditioned response, and I step into breaking new ground for a more expansive vision and more inclusive vision for humanity. Now I'm going to read to you a couple of lines from Centers for Spiritual Living Global Vision. It says, "We envision humanity awakening to its spiritual magnificence and discovering the creative power of thoughts. A world in which each and every person discovers their own personal power and ability to create an individual life that works within a life that works for everyone, within a world that works for everyone. We envision a world in which we live and grow as one global family that respects and honors the interconnectedness of all of life. A world where kinship with all life prospers and connects through the guidance of spiritual wisdom and experience." Not only do I need to imagine this vision, but I also need to commit to it. And commitment means that I'm not going to run when things get uncomfortable, when it gets hot. I'm willing to pay the price for my ideals. I'm willing to take a stand when maybe it's uncomfortable to take a stand. I'm willing to step into the courage and the courageousness of being committed to this vision, even when what is being experienced is not this vision yet. I'm willing to take a stand and be in it for the long haul until the vision experiences and expresses itself fully. It's a commitment to being more integrated, a commitment to recognize that my relationship with self and others and my relationship with my inner world and my outer world needs to be engaged in a way that's supportive of a higher idea of possibility. And when my inner world and the outer world become in alignment, my story merges with the collective story. And the story of I becomes the story of we. It's a new possibility of what we can create together. And you might ask, well, what kind of things can I do? So I want to just give you some practical steps. There are some spiritual actions that I've mentioned, and I'm going to add a couple more. The first is prayer. Pray without ceasing. Pray and pray and pray again. If you've been praying, keep praying. If you haven't been praying, start praying. The second thing is meditation, is meditating and envisioning and being in that space of connection with everybody, being in the space of connection and love. Now, I invite you to join our meditation and exploration service next week because we are holding a prayer and candlelight vigil in honor of those who have given their lives for a higher idea of possibility. We pray for the elimination of racism and an emergence of a collective humanitarian up-leveling where each and every life is valued. Because God values each and every one of us equally. And when I start stepping into that truth, I recognize and know that truth. And I step into that in my actions and my words and my deeds. So I invite you to join us in prayer at our 5:30 p.m. service next week on June 14th, where we will have that prayer and a candlelight service. Bring your own candle to your computer screen and light it in honor of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and all those others who have lost their lives in this. And I recognize and know that there are other actions that we can participate in. We talk about having a balanced spiritual practice, which includes prayer, meditation, education. So if you want to be educated, I encourage you to get this book, The Conscious Activist. I also have a book that I just ordered from my digital library called How to Be an Anti-Racist. Because I want to continue to educate myself and learn about how I can contribute to a new possibility for the world and not contribute to being a detriment to it. There's also sacred service. You can give of your time and your energy to organizations that are promoting racial justice and inclusivity, that are promoting this idea of a world that works for everyone. You can serve in those organizations and in your local community. And then there's the practical. So those are these are spiritual life ways of being. Again, prayer, meditation, education, and sacred service. And then there's the tangible ways of being where you can donate money to organizations that make a difference in the world. The Black Lives Matter movement, the movement for racial justice and equality. And so you can step into organizations. There's plenty of organizations everywhere. So you can give and support those that need to be supported right now. And there's one other thing that you can do that I highly encourage you to do, is vote. I encourage you to vote, to research the people that are going into offices and in different positions, both locally and globally, and take a stand for love. And use it with your voice and use it with your vote. And those are some practical ways that you can be a conscious spiritual activist in this world right now. And let us know together that we all have a role to play, and each of us is currently playing the role in the emergence of a new idea of humanity. And what I know is that what Jean Houston said, she talked about the entelechy, about the human potential possibility, where the entelechy is all of the highest potential resides in the smallest aspect of itself. And you can think about this as an acorn, that the oak tree is already in the acorn. Well, we are the highest possibility for humanity, and it's latent within us, and it is time now for it to come out. So please join me in prayer right here for this truth to express itself in our lives now. I'm so grateful to recognize and know that there is something that is happening right here on this planet right now. There's a movement and a shift. Some may see it as darkness. Some may see it as the all-devourer. But I recognize and know that what is happening is a shift and a movement into that next level of the conscious awakening of our planet, of our experience as human beings. That we are here to express the fullness of love and light on this planet, to create a world that works for everyone, and to step and stand into that vision in a way that is supportive and uplifting of all people. That regardless of what we had in our past, that our past is not our precedent. This is a new moment, a new day, a new way of being, and I take a stand for love. I take a stand for truth. I take a stand for justice. I take a stand for new possibility for humanity right here and right now. And I know as I can connect to that infinite source of all that is, that I am a vessel for this revelation happening right here and right now. And as I claim this for myself, I claim it for each and every person. As they open with the question of what is mine to do, I know and claim that the great creator, the infinite source of all, continues to guide each and every person into those next steps, into that next steps of evolution, of revelation, into knowing what is mine to do to participate in the co-creation of this humanity's vision. And so I claim it. I know it. I know without a doubt it is happening, and I surrender to it happening through me, right here, as me right now. I give up any limitations, any ideas of what I thought it should be or how it could be, and I open to something even greater than that this new birth for humanity is beautiful and bountiful and inclusive and loving. And that's what I see. And so as I surrender into that idea of possibility, I know that it is pulling me forward into that greater vision. I have been pushed from the pain, and now I'm being pulled forward into the vision. And so I surrender into that, activating me, illuminating me, opening me to see and feel and know new possibility that is right here and right now. I'm so grateful for this truth. I'm so grateful for this opportunity to be alive for such a time as this. I'm humbled, I'm honored, and I'm grateful. And so it is.